Is there a strategy that'll help you grow your company faster? CEO Sales Strategies is an investigative business podcast for entrepreneurial people who never stop asking questions. Highly acclaimed sales revenue growth expert Doug C. Brown interviews CEOs, business owners, and professionals who serve them to uncover and share actionable tips and methods behind their bulletproof sales strategies. Topics covered on the show include their failures, struggles, secrets, and processes that help them succeed in selling millions to billions of dollars of their products and services, all with the sole aim of helping you grow your business. If you are eager to know the most effective sales secrets from the A players of the game, then the CEO Sales Strategies podcast is certainly the place to be.
Hey everyone, welcome to the CEO Sales Strategy Podcast. We're going to go to our interview real quick here. I've got an illustrious guest. His name is Mr. Jeffrey Gitomer. A lot of people know Jeffrey as, I would say, one of the foremost sales trainers or training companies in the world. And, you know, he's been all over the globe. We had a very interesting conversation on and around identification and leadership. And I think that is going to help you fare well in your pursuit of growing your revenues. Little disclaimer, you know, there is a small amount of profanity there. So, you know, in the upcoming interview. So if that would be something that would offend you, I would say, please don't listen to the interview. Not really bad words, but a little bit of profanity. And I also think something that's really important that we talked about, which is to be yourself. And I don't, on this show, I don't regulate how people want to speak or what they necessarily want to speak about, as long as it's helpful to you folks. So that is that. Jeffrey's books are kind of worldwide famous. You know, the Little Red Book of Sales is probably one of his, I would say, forerunners of recognition. We talk about positioning and how to sell on value and how do you position that value, because not a lot of companies are great doing that today. So without further ado, I mean, I could tell you all the companies. Just go to his website, gitomer.com. You'll see all the companies, but I mean, he's, you know, got a very impressive resume of people that he served. And he's done, I would say, probably hundreds of thousands to millions of books over time. So well-known guy. Let's go to the interview. This is Doug C. Brown. Hey, Jeffrey, it's very nice to have you here on the CEO Sales Strategy Podcast.
Well, we put it off enough. I think that today's the day.
For those of you who don't know what Jeffrey's talking about, we've been trying to connect now for a couple of months, and between health issues for both of us, actually, it delayed our interview today. So, but we're here, and we have a great topic to talk about. Jeffrey, you want to introduce the topic?
Yes, I do. I'm asked by CEOs, literally universally, please improve my sales. Please grow my sales. You show me a CEO, you show me a CFO, you show me a chief sales officer, chief revenue officer, and they all want the same damn thing, more sales. Okay, well, how do you do that? It ain't more Facebook ads. That I can promise you. But it is, in my opinion, better salespeople with deeper relationships.
So better salespeople being people who are more rapport building type salespeople. Would that be the better type of salesperson today?
Relationship building salespeople. Because if you sell me something and it's the lowest price and somebody comes in for a nickel less, you lose that business. Mm-hmm. You have no loyalty whatsoever other than loyalty to a nickel. Well, so this is what I've discovered over the past year of COVID bullshit. Pardon my French. You allowed to say bullshit?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want on this podcast. We, the thing is that relationship selling has always been important, but I don't think people have placed the importance on it as they are right now, or shouldn't right now.
Correct.
And, the old adage, it's always easier to resell somebody you already have a really good relationship with and far less costly to do so, always was the truth before and even now. I find what a lot of companies, because, I'm dealing with a very similar audiences, and I find a lot of companies that come to me and say the same thing. I want to increase my sales. I just don't know how. Now we used to do this all face to face. I was a whatever type of company, but now we're a virtual company. How do we build that relationship virtually? That's really the key.
The first answer is look at yourself. Look at me. I'm virtual. I'm in Wild Dunes, South Carolina. There's palm trees in the background. My hands don't disappear when I go up and down. If I have a background, if I need one, called Anyvoo, ANYVOO.com. And I present myself in a way that's not tacky. If I talk to an audience, Doug, of 200 people, half of them look like shit.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you're talking about relationships, it's everything that touches the senses of the other individual. That's how I view it.
Right. And you make a value judgment, and the value judgment is yes or no. Mm-hmm. It's not even a maybe. It's a yes or a no. I'm going to do what's comfortable for me. I'm going to do what feels good for me. Now, here's the secret. Go to any company that you have a relationship with. And I only want half your fee if you do this successfully. I don't want any more than anybody else. I don't want any less than anybody else. Give me your top 5 sales guys and identify their top 10 characteristics of what makes them successful. They may not know what makes them successful. They may think, well, I'm a good people person, and I get up early in the morning, and that has nothing to do with what makes them sell. Nothing. That may be what drives them, but it's not what makes them sell. It's what they do in the heat of the battle when there's an issue. It's what they do to deliver when nobody else can deliver. It's what they do to follow through when nobody else is following through. It's what they do to communicate in advance. It's what they do to fight for their customer. It's what they do to earn that friendship. Beyond relationship, friendship. All things being equal, people want to do business with their friends. All things being not quite so equal, people still want to do business with their friends.
Yep.
And that's the challenge that salespeople don't get. They think it's transactional. This guy only takes the lowest price. You know what? Screw that guy. Why are you selling that guy? Let your competitor go there and make no money over there. Let him go broke selling a cheap bastard.
Well, it's really difficult to sell on value if we're selling into a commoditized scenario, right? I mean, it's price per whatever figure, right?
What would you call commoditized?
Well, anything that somebody sees another person and sees the other competition there as completely equal or equalized, they're going to revert most of the time to either price or convenience, right? Because there's an absence of perceived value or service that they're looking for. That's
keyword, perceived. Mm-hmm. Keyword. So if I'm selling home siding and there's a shortage of home siding and I can get you product and the other guy cannot, doesn't matter what my price is. I'll sell for another $1 a foot because I can get it.
Right.
Then it's a matter of, look, do you trust me to be your vendor, your supplier, your supply chain? Because if you do, put your faith in me and I'll go find the product, even if I have to buy it from a competitor. I'm your guy. If you got to go shop me, I am not your guy. I'm your price guy.
So I think the statement you just made is very interesting for a lot of people who are selling today. They don't really think about it this way, but I always have, and I know you always have. But put your faith in me, right? Put your faith in me.
Right, I'm your guy. They don't buy aluminum siding. They buy Doug Brown. Doug Brown just happens to convey it. That's it. But I'm putting my faith in you, bub, because you're my guy. Doug F. Brown, not C.
So so is it fair to say from your perspective then that they have to put their faith in us? We're going to ask that, but we also have to put our faith in them that we're building a win-win buying relationship.
Well, we're helping them. We have to help them build their business. If we only dump product on their lawn, we haven't helped them at all. My feeling is if you don't help your customer make a profit, you got a big problem. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that separates you, differentiates you from everybody else, but that's a characteristic of a leading salesperson. A leading salesperson will help their customer, will fight for their customer. So if the sales VP says, grow my sales, dude, that's the wrong silo. That's the wrong stack. Identify my strengths and build on those within the framework of my organization, and I'll grow sales like crazy. But if you're just trying to do the same damn thing and just upping my quota by 11% because you pulled a number out of your ass, it's not going to happen. Where'd you get that 11.4% growth? Well, we sat around in a room and pulled it out of our ass.
Well, and how meaningful is it to the company, the salesperson, and as important, how important is it to the end consumer that might purchase that? And so, no, if companies are just pulling, out of the air for whatever reason, hey, I'm going to grow my sales by X. Where's the plan around this? How does it affect the customer journey all the way around? I talk with so many companies. I just want to double my sales. Well, are you set up to what was that?
Who doesn't?
Yeah, of course. But the question really comes down is, are they set up operationally? Are they set up customer service wise and all the other facets in order, if they have rapid growth, a doubling of the company, are they able actually to deliver on that?
And do your salespeople believe in their heart that each one of them can double their sales?
It's a really good question.
Because if they don't, there's no sense in going on the journey.
Right. So what do you do in that situation? Let's say they don't have the belief in that. Do you train them? Do you replace them? How do you handle it?
The answer is very delicate. Probably the first thing I would do is replace the senior officer. That will light more of a fire under anybody without having to go through a bunch of shit like, hey, Bob was a great guy, but all he did was demand of you, and we're going to coach you to become better. I mean, it sounds kind of brutal, but how can I best double my sales? And probably the answer is fire you, Bob.
Right.
That's probably the best answer I can give you. It's cheaper. I can put new leadership in. It'll inspire all of your people to get better. I'm going to identify who your great guys are. I'm going to build a program around them, and we're going to march to success. Am I going to double my sales the first year? Nah. Am I going to double them the second year? You bet your butt I am.
It's interesting because you and I were talking about hockey and different sports before, but pro sports teams do that, right? A lot. When something's just not going and they want to grow, they take a key figure. Yeah, gone. And whether the manager is the real cause or not, but it really starts to drive some, I'll say, shockwave momentum through the organization, through the players. It wakes people up.
And the people, and I don't want to mention any cities like Dallas, that keep their leadership, even though it sucks, wonder why they struggle from year to year and can't make any headway. And the answer is because the team doesn't believe in the leadership.
Well, and if we have a team that won't believe in the leadership, the team is either A, going to make it up on their own, or B, avoid the confrontation that's going to come out of that lack of belief.
They'll take their $9 million a year and play mediocre.
Yeah. So this is a really important lesson, I think, for all CEOs running a company. You want to feed the strong, not the weak. And if we don't feed the strong in sales, nothing ticks off a salesperson more. And I know I've had this happen when I've, been the number one guy in the company. They get a couple leads come in, and who do they pass them to?
The weakest guy.
Yeah, the weakest guys, right? It's like, wait a minute, I'm 4 times over quota every single month consistently, and you're not rewarding me at all. But that to me is a lack of leadership in an organization, in a sales-driven organization, because it's not about propping the weak up. It's about feeding the strong.
Well, and you can tell the weak guy, say, listen, we're identifying the characteristics of our strong guys and expect you to emulate them.
Hmm.
And if you can't, you're going to need to be weak someplace else.
That in itself, a lot of times, is a great motivating factor to get people in or out.
Because you're not doing something that's off the chart. You're just saying, look, I'm going to identify the strengths of our best guys and ask you to match them. I'm not going to, there's no rocket science program here that's going to catapult me to a brand new height. I'm simply going to maximize my internal talent. And I'm going to do it in a way where anybody can get it. But if you don't want to hustle, please tell me now, because it's going to save you and I a lot of heartache.
Right. Yeah. One of the questions that CEOs often ask when I'm speaking with them, Jeffrey, is like, okay, I'm frustrated with my sales team. What do I do with them? Right. It's like, can you come in and train them? And my first question out of the gate is, are they open to be trained? Are they trainable? Right.
I have a standard answer. Count them up by 2s and shoot the 1s. You'll have a lot of motivated 2s and your payroll will be cut in half. But I think that it goes deeper than that. It is the first thing I look at is the leadership. And I look to see if these guys are willing to go to the mat for the leader.
So do you find that, by the way, folks, if you're not remembering who we're talking with, speaking with Mr. Jeffrey Gitomer, he is a world-renowned author, numerous
and
books.
Raconteur. I'm a raconteur. Don't forget to put that in.
As he just said. You can find him at Gitomer.com. That's Gitomer.com.
Let me show you something.
Pick up his books for sure. Probably one of his most famous ones that people identify with is the Little Red Book of Sales, which is what he's holding up on selling. And I remember you telling me an interesting story about that particular cover one time, because you wrote that you write a lot of books, or you used to go to France, right? And write. And that cover came out of an inspiration from somewhere that you found a different book, or?
Yeah, I'll show you. It's funny, I just had a writer's weekend here. I teach people how to finish their book. This was given to me in 1996 by my friend Mitchell Carney. It's called Paris Out of Hand. And I knew what this book was going to look like the minute I saw this book.
Interesting. It's a mirror image.
Unreal.
Let's I love this topic about, leadership and identification, getting very clear on this. When it comes to leadership, is it usually a lack of leadership? Does it come from usually a skill set that they don't possess, or do you find it's mostly, 80% is between the ears and they have their own personal challenges going on that's affecting their ability to lead?
They get bogged down in the minutia of bullshit, and they lose their vision of what it's like to really be a leader. The leader is the visionary, not the floor mopper. And
go ahead.
Not that the leader shouldn't mop the floors every once in a while, but it's not your daily job.
So it's really to show the people the end point of the vision and constantly be navigating the ship toward that particular endpoint.
But there's a secret.
And
The secret is, if the sales leader cannot go out on a sales call with your best guy and make the sale where your best sales guy cannot, your leader is worthless.
it's a really good point. So in any team, not to toot my own horn too much, but in any team I've ever led, I've always been the number one producer in that team, regardless. And what I've learned from doing that, which I teach my clients to do as well, is you drive it, because what they want to do is knock the guy off the top of the hill, right? So if it's the owner,
Yep.
you know, be out there selling, because they're looking. And then two, complaints don't exist. They're now more, you know, I mean, they may be there, but they don't exist like they would in the absence of that, because now as the owner, as the leader of that company, that leader can look at that sales team and go, listen, you know what? I'm doing it.
Right. But the leader has to be in a meeting and looks at your biggest shit sales guy and go, Bud, what's the issue? Can't get people on the phone. Wow. Can you give me the name and number of just one guy? Sure. Give me his name and number. Hi, I'd like to talk to Bob. Yeah, it's a business matter of a personal nature. Hello, Bob? Yeah, hang on. And hand the guy the phone.
Yeah, now you got him.
And you shut that guy up forever.
Right.
It'll be a story that everyone will retell forever, but you got to use your balls.
Yeah, makes
Not
sense.
sales balls. You have no business being in sales leadership.
Well, and if a leader allows that type of I won't call it behavior, because that comes from the thought process, right? If the leader allows that type of thought process to infiltrate through the organization, then what ends up happening is it lowers the overall performance of the whole team.
And energy.
Yes.
And belief.
Yes. And conversely, if you have somebody who's a top performer on the team, but they're so disruptive to that particular team,
get rid of them.
But a lot of leaders, a lot of people running companies, they don't do that, Jeffrey, because they're afraid that they let this top guy go, that they're not going to be able to replace him, right? What I have found is moving the top guy to a different venue, right? Moving she or he out of there actually improves the performance of the overall organization.
Every time.
What is it come back to weak leadership and not the the identification issue?
I'm going to identify the strengths of my best guys, and the leader is going to put all that into a game plan and deliver it to the rest of my people. It is not complicated. I don't need the challenger sale. I don't need the new strategic selling. I need to identify the qualities of my best guys and teach the other guys the same qualities. And done.
Yeah.
Everything else is bullshit.
So for owners out there, I've always found that struggle is inevitable, but success is not guaranteed. So it's what we do with that struggle, right? If we have those challenges within the organization, what we do, whether or not we become successful or not in our endeavors to grow our revenues.
Right. And if you quantify the situation, you have a chance at winning. And if you don't, you never will. And you'll wonder why.
Yep.
You're not going to increase sales by raising the quota.
Quantification is a huge part of this. I'm so grateful you brought that up, because a lot of people, they don't look at their numbers like they're supposed to. They don't look at their, I call them, they're being honest, but they're not being truthful. Truthful being objective. Let's measure what's going on. And every time we measure, it shows a story, right? It reveals a story. And a lot of times just measuring by the numbers itself will improve sales in a company, because they haven't been holding accountability. People aren't respecting what's not being inspected, so to speak. So I think that quantification is really a key element for growing sales and consistently growing sales.
Totally.
So if people want to get a hold of you or get a hold of something of yours, I know you had something like the Insiders Club or something like that.
I
How,
do, yeah. If you go to Gitomer.com, just go to Gitomer.com, you'll find all my stuff is there. If you want to slash and go to Insiders Club, I do a live show every morning on Facebook or on my Insiders Club. I've been doing it since March of last year for salespeople, just giving free advice and, you know, being there for people, salespeople around the world. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, I'm on for everybody. And then Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, only for the Insiders Club. But if you snoop around my website, you'll find all kinds of stuff.
There's a lot on that website. I've been
Yeah.
through it several times, and there's a lot of really great stuff on the website as well.
Thank
So,
you.
so as we start to wrap up here, a couple questions. I know you're a type of guy, because we've talked several times in the past. You're a type of guy that likes to debunk things, right?
Yep.
So what is one area about selling or sales in general? We've already done a couple of them on this podcast, but what's one area that we haven't talked about that, you know, our profession, professional selling, growing revenue for companies? What's one myth that you like to debunk?
Cold calling works.
And how so?
99 out of 100 people will either hang the phone up on you or worse.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you take those numbers when if you went out and earned one referral or two referrals, you'd have a 50% to 100% closing ratio instead of a 1% begging ratio.
Right. The positioning is so different, right?
So you take your best customers and you win them to a point where they're willing to refer you to somebody else. And that's how you grow your business.
And if you have dormant or past clients, and if you're like many companies who don't pay attention to them, you could go back and garner referrals from those folks as well.
Yep.
So, one last question I have for you. So, well, maybe two. What, if you knew what you knew now, what would you have wished that you would have known right now that would have made you more successful in selling or the career that people choose in the world of sales or growing their revenues?
I would have started writing and posting earlier, because everything I write turns into some kind of money or some kind of wealth, and it makes my phone ring. I didn't, just keep in mind, love you, didn't call you. Don't call anybody.
Right.
And 2,500 speeches in the last 20 years, no sales calls, because I'm a value provider in a marketplace that's hungry for value. So I put myself out there. I put myself in front of people that can say yes to me, and I deliver value first. That's not understood in any marketing, anything. They think it's a formula and it's advertising in Facebook, and it's none of that shit. It is none of that. You give me something as a salesperson that I believe I can run with and succeed with, and I'll go back to who you are and tell all my friends to come look at you. Plain and simple.
Yeah, it's about creating that value perception and
Right.
the positioning around that. As we wrap up here, folks, I want to urge you to go to Gitomer.com, check it all out. Show up for one of his or two or three or many of the free.
Show up in the morning. Just show up in the morning. Yeah. You'll love it.
You'll learn a lot. You will learn a lot.
9:59 East Coast time.
9:59 on the nose.
It's literally, Doug, the show is now known as the 9:59.
That makes a lot of sense because it's unique. And if you could go back in time,
yeah,
and become anyone back in time, and you could take those skill sets forward and into the world today, who would that person be? And what would you do to kind of better out the world even more than you're doing already?
Well, I'd have to look at my own heroes. And my heroes are the personal development guys that I hang my hat on, Earl Nightingale or Jim Rohn or Charlie Tremendous Jones, or earlier people than that, Samuel Smiles or Orison Swett Martin. And I would have written more. I think I would have also bet the farm more often. Steve Jobs bet the farm on the iPad. How'd that work out?
Pretty darn good.
Yeah. Bet the farm on the iPhone. How'd that work out?
Pretty darn good.
So he was willing to risk everything to win. Not like, well, I'm going to put half of it up and see what happens. He didn't ask anybody. He didn't talk to anybody. He said, I got this idea. I think it's a winner. Everybody else is full of soup. I'm going to show it to the world. If they buy it, cool. And built the largest company in the history of mankind with no market research whatsoever.
That in itself is obviously a great feat. I mean, everybody knows Apple, obviously. So that's, but betting the farm is, the old analogy of, burn the boats and take the beach, right? So to speak. And a lot of people get afraid of doing that. But what I have found is it's a lack of commitment or lack of faith within the individual.
Mm-hmm.
And if they just go and explore that and push forward, then they'll start building the confidence level. That in itself will increase sales.
You got it. I agree.
Well, Jeffrey Gitomer, thank you, sir, for being here. I really appreciate you being here on the CEO Sales Strategy Podcast. Again, folks, go to gitomer.com, pick up resources there, join the classes, learn something new, and take your sales to the next level. Thanks again, Jeffrey.
My pleasure, Doug. All
right. That was a pretty cool interview with Mr. Jeffrey Gitomer. Remember, go to gitomer.com and go to some of his classes. The gentleman is very smart. He has very practical information. I remember there was a quote in an Atlanta Times, I think it was called, years ago. It said, salespeople don't peddle, they solve problems while making others laugh. And that was a quote that they did from Mr. Jeffrey Gitomer. And he's a really smart guy. And he's been on the street a long time selling. And he's been in companies helping people be on the street, whether it's physically or virtually, to improve their sales. I really like the part about identification, identifying who in your company is either constraining factors, who is the people that can take you to the next level, and identifying the leadership strengths that are required and removing those impediments within the organization or within your sales team. A lot of times people, especially when the companies are smaller and they're reliant on their sales team, they have these top performing salespeople, but they're disrupting the organization like crazy. Those people, as a leader owning the company or a leader driving the sales division, those people have to be dealt with it accordingly. Otherwise, they start poisoning the abilities of others. Especially if they're that type of grumpy or gruff person that just insults people throughout the day. So I really think that this interview here, when we focus it on the leadership aspect and we focus it on the position and we focused on the identification, those are three key components in growing your sales. And there's a lot of other tidbits in there as well. Well, once again, this is Doug C. Brown bringing you another episode of the CEO Sales Strategy Podcast. If you like this episode, please go up and give it a 5-star review. Tell your friends and let me know what you'd like me to talk about on future episodes by commenting and or sending direct messages to myself or my teams that will answer your questions. So go out, Sell something, make it a great day, and to your success.